Swastika. So you want to know how is our report different from the other reports? Well, I find most of the other reports tend to capture what I call elevator economics, just quarterly ups and downs in GDP or economic indicators. And then they do make old forecast, come back 3 months later, say they were wrong, and then this is a rinse and repeat. So when I took over the Economic and Social Survey of Asia and the Pacific, which is a ESCAP flagship 4 years ago, I was very deliberate in avoiding concentrating on these short-term ups and downs. In fact, I wanted policymakers to be guided towards sustainability. Now, it's easier said than done for a region that has been growing really fast for the last several decades. This strong growth has also pulled 1.2 billion people out of extreme poverty. So telling all these policymakers, don't care about growth, had its own perils. But I actually took up the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as the linchpin in order to build the narrative towards sustainability. And ever since, we've tried to integrate and mainstream sustainability into economic policy making. So our very first survey in 2019, Ambitions Beyond Growth, was about a very deliberate attempt to move conversation away from growth towards things that matter. We estimated the investment needs for Asia Pacific economies to achieve these goals. It was about $1.5 trillion, additional ones every year, which is less than $1 per person per day. And most of these investments were in people, eliminating poverty, hunger, providing education, healthcare, or on planet, providing clean energy, caring about nature. So our goal was, our tagline was, put people and planet first. In January, I was very, very pleased to see at the World Economic Forum, India's Prime Minister called for a public participation program called P3, Pro Planet and People. So in 2020, we really wanted to sort of move towards more sustainability and see how can we make consumption and production behaviors a lot more sustainable. In fact, what we ended up asking was all the stakeholders, governments, businesses, and consumers to adopt sustainability. Governments needed to incorporate sustainability into their policy frameworks, move out of transition out of fossil fuels, build green financial systems. Businesses were asked to incorporate ESG into their business models and also to adopt more sustainability friendly reporting rules. Consumers were asked to adopt more sustainable lifestyles, which means reducing carbon footprints. Now, from our region, Thailand has always been very, very supportive of sufficiency economy, but I was also very pleased that in January, in COP26 meeting last year, India's Prime Minister called for an environmentally sustainable lifestyle, which means moving away from something which is sort of mindless and destructive consumption towards mindful and deliberate utilization of resources. Then hit the pandemic. It really upended the entire economic thinking. We started thinking about, do we care about efficiency? Do we care about resiliency? All of a sudden, inequalities between countries, within countries, they laid bare. They were right in front of us. And we needed to figure out, how do we build resiliency? How do we come out of this crisis? We did a lot of work and we showed that non-economic shock like a pandemic leaves long-term scars on the economy. And economic shocks like financial crisis, they leave a long-term scars on inequal social and environmental indicators. So here we proposed a policy package, Building Forward Better, which included a social, digital, and a green package, which meant that countries could recover not only faster with high output growth and productivity, but also improve on their social and economic environmental indicators like reduced number of poor people, reduce inequalities, and carbon emissions. So now that the pandemic has been going on, people are talking about, is the recovery K-shaped, which means are rich people getting richer, poor people getting poorer? And also one of the other concerns has been that this pandemic has accelerated a transformation towards a paradigm which actually favors high-skilled jobs. So it's not about just inclusive recovery, but what kind of a development paradigm we are going to have going forward. So here we all can agree on one thing, that we all want to live in a world where everybody has equal opportunity to basically equal access to opportunities in order to realize their full potential. And that means that it should be irrespective of your age, gender, or employment status. Hence, we are covering this topic of inclusion in our 2022 survey. And we're looking at all policies, fiscal, monetary, and structural policies. How can they help us move towards a paradigm which puts inclusion at the center? Now, it's not easy, where countries do not have enough resources in order to bring people up right now. There's a lot of pressure to stabilize prices, create jobs, and also to increase productivity at the same time coming out of the pandemic. While it's difficult, but it's not impossible, and we are going to show you how. So tune in on April 12th for our launch of our survey, which puts inclusion at the center and is bound to make sure that no one is left behind. Yes, we will build a fairer future for all. Thank you.